On my 27th birthday, I thought I was surrounded by the people who loved me most. Then I pulled back the curtain and my world collapsed.
Let me start at the beginning, because honestly, if I just drop the bomb up front, it won't hit the same. You have to understand the weight of all the history before you get to the part where it all blew up in my face. I grew up in a medium-sized town in Indiana. Not quite a cornfield and cows type of small town, but small enough that you knew who your neighbor voted for, what car your teacher drove, and which kid in class had divorced parents before you even knew what divorce really meant. My parents were strict. Church every Sunday kind of strict. No sleepovers unless they knew the kid's family, no internet past 9 p.m. because the devil lives in chat rooms. My mom really said that once, bless her heart. So when I met Mike in 7th grade, he became my outlet, my escape hatch into feeling like I wasn't totally suffocating in suburban rules and expectations. Mike was the kind of kid who didn't care what anyone thought. Shaggy hair, Metallica hoodie even in the summer, skateboard tucked under his arm like an extra limb. He had that magnetic energy, the kind that makes teachers sigh and girls giggle. And somehow, for reasons I still don't totally understand, he picked me to be his best friend. We clicked fast. It was video games at his place, sneaking beers from his dad's garage fridge, biking to the gas station for Slurpees and acting like it was some kind of heist. I wasn't the most popular kid, but with Mike, I felt untouchable. He had this way of making trouble feel like an adventure instead of a disaster. High school only made us closer. Football games, late-night Taco Bell runs, getting in dumb fights with seniors who thought we looked at their girlfriends wrong. We had this pact, half joking but also dead serious, that we be each other's ride or die. At 15, that sounded cool. At 27, it sounds tragic. Fast forward to college. We went to different schools but kept in touch. Weekly calls, road trips to visit each other, drunk 2 a.m. FaceTimes that were 90% incoherent but 100% brotherhood. Even when life got busy, Mike was my constant. Enter Sarah. I met Sarah at work after I graduated. She was in marketing, I was in IT, which meant she was constantly emailing me about computer issues that were really just her not knowing how to convert a PDF. She had this energy. Quick wit, big smile, the kind of person who made a dull meeting actually bearable. We started eating lunch together, then accidentally running into each other at the coffee shop down the street. Before long, we were dating.
For 2 years, it was good. Like, really good. Not perfect, of course. She left hair ties everywhere like breadcrumbs, and I was terrible at remembering to text when I'd be late. But we laughed a lot, traveled a little, and talked about maybe moving in together once my lease was up.
Naturally, I introduced her to Mike. I remember the first night they met. We went to this dive bar downtown. Sticky floors, dollar beers, the whole deal. Mike walked in late, spotted us at the booth, and slid in next to Sarah like he'd known her forever. They got along instantly. Too instantly, maybe. But at the time, I was just relieved. You always want your best friend and your partner to get along, right? Looking back, I can see the little cracks forming even then. Mike complimented her a lot. More than necessary. Not in a gross way, but just frequent. Her hair, her laugh, her jacket. I brushed it off because that was Mike. Charming, flirty, always laying it on thick with everyone. Sarah seemed flattered, but not weird about it. She'd roll her eyes, laugh, and then turn back to me. No alarm bells yet. But over the months, I started to notice things. When we'd hang out as a group, Mike would sit next to her, not me. When he told stories, he'd make eye contact with her the whole time, like she was the only one in the room. Sometimes I'd catch texts on Sarah's phone from him, inside jokes, memes, nothing overtly inappropriate, but still. I told myself I was paranoid, that I was overthinking because I'd seen too many Reddit threads about best friend steals girlfriend, that Mike was my brother and Sarah loved me. But deep down there was this little voice, annoying, uncomfortable whisper. What if? It got louder the night of my birthday. Birthdays have always been kind of a big deal for me. Not in the throw a massive party and get wasted kind of way, but in the surround yourself with people you love, eat too much pizza, and laugh until your face hurts kind of way. So when my 27th rolled around, I wanted something low-key but fun. I invited maybe 15 people to my apartment. Coworkers, old high school buddies, Mike, of course, and Sarah. Ordered way too many pizzas, stocked the fridge with beer, set up a cheap Bluetooth speaker to blast a chaotic mix of everything from Blink-182 to Drake. For most of the night, it felt good. The kind of good where you're buzzed but not sloppy, and the people around you were genuinely having fun. I remember looking around my living room at one point. People crammed on the couch, laughing at some dumb joke Mike made, Sarah perched on the armrest with a drink in her hand, and thinking, yeah, this is it. This is what happiness looks like. That memory makes me sick now. Because after midnight, when the crowd started thinning, things shifted. People trickled out with hugs and happy birthdays, leaving just a handful of us. Mike offered to help clean up. Sarah insisted she'd stay too, said it didn't feel right leaving me with all the mess. I didn't think twice. These were my people, my circle. I was tired, buzzing on sugar and beer, and eventually I crashed. Told them both thanks, that I was going to lie down for a bit, and stumbled off to my bedroom. Fell asleep almost instantly. If I hadn't gotten up for water, maybe I never would have known. Around 3 a.m., I woke up groggy and dehydrated, mouth dry as sandpaper. I stumbled to the kitchen, expecting to find empty beer cans and maybe Sarah passed out on the couch. Instead, the living room was empty, lights off, too quiet. I figured they'd left already. Until I heard it. A sound. Faint. Muffled. Coming from the balcony. I don't know why I looked. Maybe some sixth sense, maybe just bad luck. But I pulled the curtain back, and there they were. Mike and Sarah. Not just talking, not just leaning in close. They were kissing. Her hands in his hair, his arms around his waist, the kind of kiss you don't mistake for anything else. I froze, heart in my throat. My brain short-circuited, like it was refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. It felt like watching a car crash in slow motion. They pulled apart, and for a split second, Sarah glanced toward the glass door. Our eyes met. Her face changed instantly. Shock, guilt, panic. She shoved Mike away like touching him burned her, but it was too late. I saw it. They knew I saw it. The rest is a blur. I remember Mike stammering something, hands raised like he was about to explain away murder, Sarah crying, saying my name over and over. I don't even think I said anything at first. I just stood there, watching 15 years of friendship and 2 years of love collapse in front of me. Finally, I laughed, a sharp, hollow laugh that didn't sound like me. I said something like, of course, it's you two. Then I walked back into my room, shut the door, and locked it. I could hear them arguing in the living room. Sarah begging me to come out, Mike trying to justify it, voices overlapping. I didn't move. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, numb, while the people I trusted most in the world scrambled on the other side of the door. Around 4 a.m., I read the front door slam. Silence. When I finally got up, the apartment was trashed. Half-empty cups, pizza boxes, beer cans everywhere, and the balcony. I couldn't even look at it without feeling like I might puke. Later that day, a mutual friend texted me. Said they saw Mike and Sarah making out outside the apartment after I'd gone to bed. That's when I realized it wasn't the first time.
Last night wasn't some drunken one-off mistake. This had been going on. I confronted Sarah when she came back for her things. She admitted it. 3 months. 3 fucking months behind my back. She said she didn't mean for it to happen, and that she still loved me, but also that she felt something real with him. Mike's excuse? We didn't want to hurt you. Right, because nothing says we care about you like lying for months and then making out on your best friend's balcony while he sleeps 10 feet away. I kicked them both out of my life that day. Blocked, deleted, gone. 15 years of friendship, erased in an instant. The worst part? I wasn't even angry at first. I was empty, like someone scooped out everything inside me and left a shell. That emptiness stayed with me for weeks.
The days after that night were surreal. I remember waking up the next morning, sunlight streaming through the blinds, and for half a second my brain tricked me into thinking nothing had happened. Then I turned my head and saw her hair tie on the nightstand, and it all came crashing back. That's how the next few weeks went. Little reminders everywhere. Her toothbrush in the bathroom, the extra Xbox controller Mike left at my place ages ago, and the balcony, which suddenly felt radioactive. I didn't rage. I didn't throw things. I just shut down. I moved through my apartment like a ghost. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, scroll my phone, maybe eat, maybe not. Rinse, repeat. My friends texted me, called me, knocked on my door. I ignored most of it. It's funny, when you lose two people at once, it feels like a death. But no one brings you casseroles, no one sends sympathy cards. You just sit in the wreckage and wonder how you didn't see it coming. The first real wave of anger hit about a week later. I was doing dishes, and I found one of Sarah's mugs. She loved this stupid ceramic mug shaped like a cat with whiskers painted on it. She used it every morning for coffee. I looked at it, and suddenly I was furious, not just at her, but at myself, for being blind, for trusting too much, for letting Mike get that close. I hurled the mug into the trash. It shattered, and I stood there breathing heavy like I'd just exorcised a demon. That was the first time I felt alive again. After that, I started making small moves. Deleted photos, boxed up her things, threw Mike's old hoodie in the dumpster. Each little act felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Of course, they both tried to reach out. Sarah sent a long email, pages of apologies, excuses. I didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened. I still care about you. Mike texted me twice, once to say, "I messed up, bro," and once to say, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." The audacity. I didn't respond to either. What could I say? Thanks for shattering my trust in humanity. Let's grab beers. Instead, I leaned on the people who actually deserved it. Rob, my oldest friend outside of Mike, showed up one night with Chinese takeout and 2 six-packs. He didn't ask questions. We just sat, ate, watched Die Hard, and for 2 hours, I forgot about everything. That night saved me more than he knows. My sister called me every other day. Sometimes we just talked about dumb stuff, TV shows, our parents' weird habits, but hearing her voice reminded me I wasn't alone. Work became a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it forced me to get out of bed, shower, and interact with humans. On the other, sitting in front of a monitor for 8 hours gave me way too much time to spiral. But slowly, routine started stitching me back together. I also hit the gym. Hard. At first, it was just to burn off the anger. Headphones, blasting angry music, pushing weights until my arms shook. But over time, it became more than that. It was structure, progress I could measure. Every extra plate on the bar was proof that I wasn't broken forever. The real turning point came about 2 months later. I was at the grocery store, standing in line with a frozen pizza and a six-pack, when I ran into a guy from high school I hadn't seen in years. He asked me how I was doing, and for the first time, I didn't flinch. I said, "Honestly, better than I was." And I meant it. It hit me then that I was still standing. Mike and Sarah had taken a lot from me, but they hadn't taken me. Don't get me wrong, it still hurt. Some nights I'd lie awake, replaying everything, wondering what I could have done differently. But the difference was, it didn't define me anymore. The pain was part of my story, not the whole book. 6 months later, I was in a new apartment across town. Fresh start. No haunted balconies, no hair ties, no ghosts. I even got a dog, a goofy rescue mutt named Baxter who snores louder than a lawnmower. That dog healed me more than therapy ever could. Mike and Sarah, last I heard they tried dating, but it didn't last. Mutual friends said it ended messily. I'd be lying if I didn't smile a little when I heard that. Petty, maybe, but I'll take my victories where I can. Now, over a year later, I'm in a different place. Not perfect, not fully healed, but stronger. More cautious with trust, sure, but also more grateful for the people who didn't betray me. Sometimes I think about Mike, about all those years, the games, the jokes, the late-night talks. It feels like looking at old photos of a stranger. That guy doesn't exist anymore. And maybe he never did. Maybe I just wanted him to. Same with Sarah. I don't hate her. I don't love her. I just don't feel anything. She's a closed chapter. And me? I'm still here. Still moving. Still learning that sometimes the people you take a bullet for are the ones holding the gun.
My mom treated my wedding like a competition, and I was the enemy.
I guess the only way to really explain how messy this whole thing got is to rewind back to the very beginning, because the wedding itself was just the explosion. The bomb had been ticking for months, maybe even years. So, hi, I'm 29F. My now husband is 31M. We'll call him Tom. We've been together for 5 years, and honestly, he's my rock. He's the calm to my chaos, the type of guy who'd rather fix a sink than go to a bar, and yet somehow he makes me laugh harder than anyone else. We got engaged last year, nothing over the top, just a quiet moment at home with takeout and candles. It was perfect, simple, very us. But I should have known right then that my family was gonna complicate it. See, my mom, Linda, 55F, has been, let's just say, intensely invested in my life since I was born. Classic wants the best for you, but it often translated into wants control. She's the type who'd pick my outfits until I was 18, who once called my college professor to clarify a grade, I wish I was joking, and who's been keeping a wedding ideas binder since I was in middle school. Not exaggerating, an actual binder, like magazine cutouts, fabric swatches, even notes about which cousin should sit where. My dad, 58M, is the opposite. Quiet, conflict avoidant, the kind of guy who just wants everyone happy so he doesn't have to deal with tears. So while he's sweet, he's not exactly a buffer. When Tom proposed, I was over the moon. I called my mom first, expecting squeals and excitement. Instead, the very first thing out of her mouth was, "Did he do it properly? Was there a ring? I hope you said yes right away." That should have been my first red flag. The guest list nightmare. Tom and I wanted something modest, around 80 people. Just close family and friends, people who actually knew us, people who mattered. The people we could look around at during the wedding and think, yes, these are our people. My mom? She immediately handed me a list of 200 names. I flipped through it and realized I didn't even recognize half of them. Distant cousins, old coworkers of hers, neighbors I hadn't seen since elementary school. "Mom," I said carefully, "I don't even know some of these people." Her response, "They came to my wedding. It would be rude not to invite them." Thus began the first of many battles. Every conversation for weeks circled back to this list. She'd guilt-trip me. "Family raised you. You owe them this." She'd cry, "How dare you exclude people who love you?" She even pulled out the old, "Your grandparents would be heartbroken," which, by the way, my grandparents are dead, so that was just manipulative theater. Eventually, Tom and I compromised. 100 guests. Still more than we wanted, but manageable. Mom sulked for 2 weeks, telling every relative within reach that we were cutting corners and didn't want family there. Venue wars. Next came the venue. Tom and I fell in love with this rustic barn outside the city. Affordable, cozy, perfect for the vibe we wanted. String lights, wood beams, dancing under the stars. My mom? Nope. She wanted a grand hotel ballroom downtown. Chandeliers, marble floors, valet parking. We toured it just to humor her, and my jaw dropped when the event manager casually said, "So the rental fee is $25,000. Food and drinks not included." I laughed. Tom laughed. Mom did not. She accused us of being cheap, said this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and family image mattered. I reminded her that Tom and I were paying for most of this wedding ourselves. She hit me with, "If you loved me, you'd let me have this." That line lodged itself in my brain like a splinter, because suddenly it wasn't about flowers or tables. It was about control. We compromised again, settled on a vineyard, more upscale than the barn, less ridiculous than the ballroom. Mom pouted, but at least stopped screaming. The dress debacle. If you think the venue was bad, wait until you hear about the dress. I had a vision. Something simple, flowy, elegant. Not a giant cupcake dress, not 10 pounds of rhinestones, just me, looking like myself but elevated. My mom dragged me to 6 different bridal shops, each time pulling out the biggest, poofiest gown she could find. Think Disney princess meets Vegas showgirl. Every time I said no, she sighed dramatically and muttered, "You'll regret not looking special." When I finally found my dress, a sleek A-line with lace sleeves, she actually cried. Not happy tears, disappointed tears, in the middle of the boutique, loud enough that other brides stared. "Are you sure? It doesn't scream bride, it's so plain. People will think you didn't even try." I bought it anyway. She didn't speak to me for 3 days. Other mini battles. It was like death by 1,000 cuts. Bridesmaids, I wanted 3, she wanted 6. What about your cousins? Food, I wanted tacos. Our first date was at a taco truck. She wanted filet mignon. Tacos aren't classy. Music, we wanted a live band. She wanted a DJ. Bands are unpredictable. Invitations, I liked a minimal design. She wanted foil lettering and ribbons. Each decision became a fight. Each fight chipped away at my excitement. By the time the wedding week rolled around, I was exhausted, not from planning, but from constantly defending myself. And that, friends, was just the beginning. By the time wedding week finally rolled around, I wasn't even excited anymore. I was just tired, like soul-level tired. All the Pinterest boards, group chats, vendor calls, none of that wore me down as much as fighting with my mom did. Every time I pictured walking down the aisle, I also pictured her scowling in the front row. Still, I told myself, it's just one day. I can survive one day, right? Oh, how naive I was. The rehearsal dinner disaster. The first crack came at the rehearsal dinner. We booked a little Italian restaurant near the vineyard. Nothing fancy, just pasta, wine, a cozy vibe. The plan was eat, laugh, do some quick run-throughs, and go home. Except my mom decided this was the time to assert dominance. Tom's mom, sweetest woman alive, shy, never raises her voice, asked if she could say a few words. Just a short toast about her son, how proud she was, how happy she was to see him with me. Everyone smiled, nodded, except my mom. She stiffened. Her fork clinked against her plate. Then in front of 30 people, she snapped, "Actually, I should speak first. That's tradition." Dead silence. You could hear forks scraping and glasses clinking awkwardly. Tom's mom looked like she wanted to disappear into her breadstick. I tried to smooth it over, saying something like, "It's fine, Mom. There's no order. Anyone can go." But she wouldn't drop it. She doubled down, practically barking, "I'm the mother of the bride. This is my place. She can speak after me." Cue a screaming match in the parking lot after dinner. My fiancé trying to separate them, me standing there wishing the earth would swallow me whole. My mom stormed off, muttering about being disrespected. Tom's mom cried in the car. That was rehearsal, and it only went downhill from there. The morning, chaos. Wedding day. I woke up at 6 a.m. to a text from my mom. "We need to talk about the flowers." I ignored it. By 7 a.m., the makeup artist was late. By 8, my brother, best man, realized he'd left the rings at his apartment across town. By 9, Tom's dad showed up in a blinding neon orange tie and announced, "It's my lucky tie." For what? March Madness? Nobody knows. The bridal suite was chaos. Hairspray clouds, champagne flutes everywhere, bridesmaids running in and out. I was sitting in the chair, trying to breathe, when I noticed movement behind me. It was my mom. She was at the flower arrangements, touching them, moving them, rearranging them. The florist had just finished setting up the bouquets and centerpieces. Beautiful, understated, exactly what I wanted. But my mom was pulling out roses, shoving them into different vases, muttering under her breath about how cheap it all looked. "Mom, stop," I said. My voice cracked. She didn't. I stood up, still half in curlers, and shouted, "Stop! This is my wedding, my flowers, my choice! If you can't respect that, then leave!" The room went dead silent. Bridesmaids froze. Photographer paused mid-snap. My mom's face, God, I'll never forget it. Wide eyes, lips pressed tight, like I'd slapped her. Then she said, very coldly, "If your father and I walk out right now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." That broke me. 10 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, my own mother threatened to abandon me. I burst into tears, full-on sobbing, mascara streaking, shoulders shaking. Bridesmaids panicked, shoving tissues at me. Tom rushed in, looking horrified. The photographer awkwardly pretended to adjust his camera while I melted down in a $1,500 dress. Eventually, my dad dragged her out of the room, muttering, "Not now, Linda. Not now." I walked down the aisle with blotchy skin, puffy eyes, and a stomach full of acid. The ceremony. Somehow, miraculously, the ceremony itself went okay. I don't remember half of it. It's all a blur of sunlight, vows, Tom's warm hand in mine. But I do remember glancing at my mom during the kiss. She was stone-faced. Didn't clap, didn't smile. Everyone else cheered. She sat there, arms crossed.
After the wedding, people kept asking me that same stupid question. "So, how was the big day?" I never knew how to answer. Do I give the polite version? "It was beautiful, thanks for asking." Or do I tell the truth? That it was one of the most stressful, humiliating days of my life and I can't even look at the photos without flinching? Because the truth is, when your own mother refuses to dance with you at your wedding, the fairy tale glow kind of evaporates. The silent treatment. In the weeks right after, my mom barely spoke to me. When she did, it was short, clipped, always carrying that sharp edge of guilt. Things like, "I hope you're happy with how you treated your family," or "I was only trying to give you the wedding you deserved," or "Your father and I were embarrassed." Each call left me shaking. Each text felt like another little stab. My dad, ever the peacekeeper, tried to call separately, but it was always awkward, whispered, like he was sneaking behind enemy lines. He'd ask about work, about Tom, about the dog we were thinking of adopting, but never about the wedding, never about Mom. It was like he was trying to pretend none of it happened, which only made me angrier. The relatives choose sides. Then the whispers started. Apparently, my mom had been making the rounds, calling aunts, cousins, old family friends, and telling her version of the story. According to her, I had disrespected her publicly, excluded half the family from the guest list, humiliated her at the reception. I got texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Things like, "You embarrassed your mother. She only wanted the best for you. Family should come first." As if I hadn't been the one trying to protect my sanity for a year while my mother steamrolled every decision. Thanksgiving rolled around. My mom forgot to invite us. Christmas, same story. Easter, she hosted, but told everyone we were busy with Tom's side. I found out through Instagram photos. My whole family smiling around a table while we sat at home eating takeout. It was like being erased. Tom's family steps up. The irony, Tom's family, the ones I thought might be tricky because of the divorce, became my safe harbor. His mom calls me every week, sends care packages with homemade cookies and random little things like fuzzy socks or scented candles, always signs the card, "Love Mom Number 2." His dad cracks jokes every time we see him. "Hey, remember when your wedding was basically a WWE match? Classic." He doesn't mean to make light, but sometimes it helps to laugh. For the first time in my life, I feel chosen by in-laws. And for the first time, I realize how absent that's felt from my own parents. The grief nobody talks about. What I didn't expect was the grief. Because it's not just anger I feel toward my mom, it's loss. Loss of the relationship I thought we had. Loss of the fantasy that she'd beam at me on my wedding day, cry happy tears, squeeze my hand during the vows. Instead, all my mental snapshots are of her glaring, sulking, refusing to stand next to Tom's family, and sitting with her arms crossed while I danced alone. It feels like a death, except she's still alive, still texting me guilt bombs, still talking to everyone but me. Some nights I lay awake next to Tom and wonder if I did the right thing. Should I have just let her have her way? Should I have given up the tacos, the band, the guest list, just to avoid this fallout? But then I look at our photos, the ones where Tom and I are laughing, where my bridesmaids are dancing barefoot, where his mom is smiling so big her eyes crinkle, and in the background, there's my mother, scowling, and I remember no amount of compromise would have fixed that. This wasn't about flowers or venues or food. This was about control. Where we stand now, it's been 8 months. My mom and I are still not really speaking. She sends the occasional text, "Hope you're well," or "Your father and I miss you," but it always feels like bait. Like if I call, she'll unload everything again. I haven't blocked her, but I've stopped chasing her approval. Tom has been patient beyond belief. Every time I spiral, he reminds me, we're building something new. Our family. Our rules. He's right, but it still stings, because you only get one mom, and mine chose pride over me. We adopted that dog, by the way. A goofy mutt named Benny who snores like a chainsaw and hogs the bed. He's been my therapy. On the bad days, when I start replaying the wedding in my head, I just bury my face in his fur and remind myself that joy doesn't have to look like approval. The big lesson. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Weddings don't change people, they expose them. My mom has always been controlling, but the wedding magnified it to a level I couldn't ignore. And now I'm faced with a choice. Keep sacrificing myself for her comfort, or accept that I may never get the mother-daughter relationship I dreamed of. It hurts. God, it hurts. But at least I know the truth now. And maybe, just maybe, that's its own kind of freedom.